Good afternoon, capital city, and welcome to Hard Facts on your number one talk station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. How are you doing this afternoon, Abuja? And to you who's listening in from anywhere else in the world, special thank you for always keeping it on your passionate, trustworthy, conversational station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. 16 minutes gone past 3 o'clock, and so we have a lot of time to catch up on our midweek special of Hard Facts this afternoon. We've got with us the man himself, Dr. Majeed Dahiru, live with us in the studio this afternoon, and he has sent prayers to your emails. I don't know if you've checked it for not being around last week. Well, perhaps we should start having a conversation in that direction. So let me look for. Yeah, it will be right. Yeah. Okay.
Good to receive prayers in our emails.
You too. Good to have you here, sir. How have you been?
It's good to be here.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, we start off with the midweek special with Dr. Majeed to take this conversation as far as we can go. Shift gears sometime just before 5 o'clock, where we get on to our Wednesday conversation, which is the woman. That will take us to 6, and then we hear from you all the way up until 7. I hope you're ready for the show today, because the stories in the news are definitely here for you. Let's start off with the matter of insecurity. Of course, Dr. Majeed, I'm sure you are very much abreast of what's been going on, all the incidents that have been happening across the country, and then the fact that we are seeing more of an incursion into the southwest. This has led some analysts to begin to ask questions around these coordinated attacks that we're seeing happening in the southwest, and just basically analyzing the situation. But the DHQ came out to dismiss any claims that terrorist bases are currently situated in the southwest. All this happening while they are intensifying the search for the abducted Oyo pupils. The defense spokesperson, Michael Onoja, in a statement today, said the Chief of Defense Staff, Oluyemi Oluyede, extends his deepest sympathies to the families of the victims, the government, and the people of Oyo State and the entire nation, all while dismissing reports suggesting that terrorist groups have established a permanent operational base in Nigeria's southwest region, describing the recent attack and abduction of pupils and staff in Oyo State as an isolated criminal act rather than evidence of an entrenched insurgency. Of course, it's a difficult thing to hear, seeing as it was a mass attack that happened across different parts of Oyo State. The 2 schools, at least, were invaded in communities in Orire local government area of Oyo State. At least 45 people, including pupils and teachers, were abducted. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde confirmed the attack, revealing that one of the teachers had indeed been killed. The terrorists were said to have marched the victims into the protected forest of Old Oyo National Park, a park which at some point security operatives had said that they had cleared out. However, the governor also said he's ready to negotiate with the terrorists. Let's get your thoughts on this. Is it too far-fetched to think that with such a coordinated attack happening, the way we saw it happening in Oyo State, that indeed there might be evidence of terrorist bases in the southwest? Or do you also think that this is one isolated attack and everybody in Oyo can go to rest over the matter because, it's not what we've been seeing happening across other parts of the country? Of course, this is also coming in the wake of news that students too were abducted in Borno State. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Sometimes the military authorities make me think that they need a lot of work on their communication strategy. A lot of it. They need to work. They need special training. They need special orientation on communications. This piece of information that they just gave out was as unnecessary as it is irrelevant. It was not in a war that ISWAP elements went into a church and killed tens of people. Is or not in the southwest of Nigeria. Is it the first time we are seeing abductions either on the highways or farmlands being terrorized? What led to Sunday Boho's movement way back? Was it not about this issue of terrorism in some parts of Southwest, particularly this same Oyo State, Okeogun area of Oyo State, a Barakpa area of Oyo State. You recall the man who came from the US or something to establish a farm or something around that area, and he was killed, which was a major trigger at the time. There's something new about what has happened in Oyo State. So the semantics about whether it is terrorism, it is insurgency, is immaterial. Nigerians have been killed, Nigerians have been abducted. And what is clear is that something that began from the northwest part of the country is now spreading rapidly to north central and to the southwest corner of Nigeria. We've seen consistent attacks along the Kwara-Kogi corridor. Remember the frequent attacks that happened in some churches, in some schools, along the Kogi-Kwara corridor?
Yes.
That created a serious security challenge. At the time, Kogi had to shut down all schools in Kogi State to prevent mass abductions in Kogi when they got an intel that some terrorist groups were planning mass abductions. Now, the semantics about terrorism has been settled a long time ago. The federal government is going to court to declare Yambindiga, those we call bandits, as terrorists. So, whether we call them terrorists, we call them bandits, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they are targeting people. But nobody has described it as an insurgency. So I don't know why the defense minister is saying that it's not an insurgency. Nobody has said that it's an insurgency, even in the Northwest. Because insurgency is quite different from banditry, clearly. Banditry has to do with abduction of people from soft targets, soft spots, for ransom, strictly. While insurgency, as we have it in the Boko Haram terror war in the northeast, has to do with an insurrection against the state. It's like a direct attack on the state, trying to replace what we have now with their own brand of a religiously Puritan state. So nobody has mixed up the two. But even at that, we have seen elements of ISWAP making incursion into the southwest. Like I started the example of the Oyo and the Ondo, the Owo Church massacre.
Yes.
It was ISWAP elements that carried that out. And as we speak, they have been prosecuted, and even some of them have been convicted of the crime of terrorism. So what was the need for this state? Is it because the governor of Oyo State actually said something in the regard that, okay, this is a terrorist attack and that he's willing to negotiate to do anything possible to get the people back? The defense contractors had no need to read this statement. They should be telling us now what they are doing to bring this situation under control. Because for me, the danger here is that something that we used to see happen in Zamfara, in Niger State, in Kaduna State, in Katsina, mass abduction from schools, has happened in a coordinated manner in Oyo. It means these guys, this terror franchise, these bandits, have made a successful incursion into the heartland of the southwest part of Nigeria.
Could they have done that without having a base? Because that is what the DHQ is.
I don't understand what they mean by base. What is base? What base are they looking for? Do you see any criminal anywhere setting up a base and writing it, this is bandit base? What are we talking about? What is that unnecessary communication that they also released?
Well, they're saying that they are having to do this because these narratives are creating panic.
Let's talk about narratives. This politicization of the armed forces is beginning to is sickening. Be less concerned about narratives. Focus on the issue. People have a right to describe their tragedy the way they want it. And you can't do anything about it. If you look at the Civil War, for example, people have written different books about the Civil War with different narratives. You can't force your order on another person. This was how we went into an unnecessary argument over Christian genocide in Nigeria for months. Unnecessary argument. Trying to tell somebody how to describe their own tragedy. So that's not this narrative war that they try to wage is unnecessary. Focus on the issue. The issue is that these guys have launched a massive attack in the southwest, we've not seen an attack like this before in the southwest. Mm-hmm. And to demonstrate their seriousness, they beheaded one of the victims and showed the whole world, which has now forced, and they achieved their aim in any case, it has now forced a statement from the presidency, forced out a statement from the headquarters, and forced the governor for it to say, we haven't ready to negotiate at this point. That was what they wanted to do. It's the problem with official government narrative in Nigeria is that sometimes there's a tendency to obfuscate the real issue and make very complex, very simple issues. So they accuse some of us of being too simplistic. You don't make a simple issue so complex. Then you now begin to look for solutions that are not even available. What has happened is simple. The time they were attacking Kwara consistently, you saw the massacre in Kwara. You saw how Lakulawa left Sokoto, came into Kwara. What geographically is the difficult has do they not know that geographically parts of Kwara fall under the southwest, geographically speaking, and parts of Kogi, are they not aware? Or in their own geographical map, how do you think that Kwara is truly not central state? What is not central about Kwara? So really, whatever happens in Kwara, especially below the River Niger, is just a few kilometers from where you now call the geopolitical space called the southwest. So it should not to happen. Just like Niger. Niger is much more proximate to the northwest than Benue State. But as Benue and Niger are in the same geopolitical zone.
North Central.
So what happens to Sokoto, Nasarawa, Azafara, and Katsina is most likely to filter into Niger, particularly its northern part, than in Benue. But Benue and Niger are in the same geopolitical zone. So there's a difference between a geopolitical map and a natural map, a physical map with all of the accuracies, taking into cognizance the lines of latitude and longitude. So for military, when something happens in some parts of Kwara, it should be already southwestern Nigeria. Nobody needs to argue this whole issue.
All right, let's take a quick beat. When we come back, you had said they should tell us what they're doing. There is some information about that.
What are you doing? This is something that we didn't envisage could not be contained in the northwest. It is now spreading effectively to the southwest. What are you doing about it?
We'll talk a bit about that. Let's take this break very quickly. We'll be back.
My friend, we are textile look that you are selling con raising am. If you no like am, then no be we make am. For Eminent Limited, our ceiling they last and in the fine scatter. Our calci seal or calci craft ceiling products, your mind go coolele. Unto say if you use our product for your house, office or religious buildings, our calci seal and calci craft ceiling products, we dey for plain and pattern. They last well. If they block heat plus noise from to the entire house, our products no they catch fire. Charger or you carry your phone, ring a number for Eminent on 0700 3839 644 or waka enter any of our distributor shop we did close to you or download the Eminent app on Google Play Store or iOS. Our office in call the number 7 Old Abakaliki Road, Enugu. Eminent Limited, we tender for anywhere people they build with the EDEX company.
Welcome back to your number one talk, news, and sports station. This is Nigeria Info.
With 27 years of unbroken democratic rule in Nigeria since 1999, what have we gained? Where have we faltered? And where do we go from here?
It's time for the big conversation. 95.1 Nigeria Info FM Abuja presents its first virtual town hall meeting on X Spaces. Examining Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the gains, the failures, and the roadmap forward.
We're bringing the heavy hitters to the mic.
Aisha Yusufu, human and political rights activists and politicians.
Security experts Kabir Ade Adamu, policy and development experts Edosa Oviawe, legal luminary and human rights lawyer Dr. Maxwell Okpara, broadcast veteran Carl Nabwefe Orakwe, and chief economist Paul Alaje.
Join the dialogue. Set your reminders. Date is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. Time 3 p.m. prompt. Where? On X. Follow at Nigeria Info ABJ to join the space.
95.1 Nigeria Info FM. Let's talk.
To put an end to some of these terrorist cells where this same man's name was mentioned. But President Bola Tinubu confirmed the killing of the terror kingpin, saying he was killed alongside his foot soldiers on the Lake Chad Island. So yes, after that, we are also getting reports of as many as 175 terrorists killed. According to Tuesday's statement, the operations destroyed all the checkpoints, like I mentioned, the storage facilities, logistics hubs, military equipment, and all of that. And they also re-emphasized that Mr. Mainok was among those killed. It noted that his death had severely disrupted ISIS command, operational coordination, and external attack networks. I mean, Dr. Majeed, 175 terrorists is it is a significant number, and this person who's also accredited to, leading attacks and what have you across terrorist camps and what do you call them across the country has been killed. Let's say that the information put out in 2024 was faulty, and this is when they actually killed him. Should we then expect that really and truly we are on the path to winning this war?
Okay, first and foremost, this is what we have been asking the armed forces to do, the Nigerian state to do, to stop pampering terrorists. We don't want to hear information or news about somebody describing terrorists as prodigal sons that need to be rehabilitated and all that. We have said it clearly that the best way and the only way, in my opinion, to end this war on terror is to be decisive and apply the full weight of kinetic measures to end this war. If you also recall, again, back to the issue of Christian genocide, because the help I get from America today stems from that outcry. I said, look, there was no need to argue about this matter. If a group of Christians were killed by terrorists and they decide to describe it as genocide, you that is not affected have no right to tell them how to describe their tragedy. But if you claim that you're also being killed by the same terrorists, let us now come together and ask for help for that terrorist, that's a common denominator as a killer, to be exterminated. And thankfully, the federal government engaged with the U.S. authorities productively and made a commitment to put an end to these killings, whether it is Muslim or Christians. And today we are seeing the effort of that collaboration. That collaboration I've been shouting for, that has to happen, and we should stop arguing over nonsense. What has happened here today is this. The U.S., for the first time, has given the Nigerian armed forces the capability to carry out a clinical, in fact, I say a precise military operation with clinical surgical precision to remove a major ISIS, Israel, or Boko Haram commander. Something we've not been able to do for a long time. It took a rival Boko Haram faction to remove or to neutralize Abu Shekau after we killed him more than 12 times. Now, it has taken American support for us now to go in seamlessly and just remove these guys. And over the past few days, they have been able to neutralize over 100 Israel commanders. That is very far reaching the war against terror. This is what is this is the commendable thing to do. This is what the armed forces should put it out at all times. What we are doing to end insecurity, at least as concerns the Northeast, this is a very good development. I would only urge that this should be sustained with all seriousness it deserves. And that as a Nigerian and on behalf of Nigerians, I want to appreciate the United States government and its leadership, President Donald Trump, for taking the decisive step to come to our aid. This is the most far-reaching American assistance we've received since the war on terror began in Nigeria. He has sent some boots on the ground that are giving us advice, technical trainings, and all of that. Now, they have now done a joint operation. We want to see more of the joint operations that can decimate these guys across the Northeast perimeter where they are very active. So we want to see this sustained. We want to see this continued. We until victory is achieved. Let me tell you, you can never rehabilitate somebody that has become radicalized enough to pick up arms against the state. No. Indoctrination dies hard. Look, anybody that has crossed the red line of radicalization, it's difficult for that person to come back. So the best thing is to exterminate the person, stamp them out of this world. Now, so that those that are remaining will have no capability to carry that which is in their heart, and they will die with it. So even if their mind is willing, the body is weak. You can't do this, even if you wanted to do it. So this is very commendable, and this is what we have been advocating for. This is what we want to see. Now, we also need to now replicate this now in the war against banditry. You know, there are two things we're fighting in this country, broadly. Boko Haram insurgency, terrorism, while we have banditry, that also comes with some level of terrorism. So this, America is really giving us help in the war against ISWAP and Boko Haram, as we know them to be. The Nigerian state will now have to evolve its own ingenious ways to contain banditry, and I've said it over and over on this program. Now, we are fighting a group such as bandits. You must equip, you must prepare, you must enable communities that have come under attack with capabilities as self-defense to serve as the first line of defense when these attacks happen. Why is that the case? You see, unlike Boko Haram insurgency, banditry is not ideologically inclined. It's a pure criminal franchise.
But sir, I've had an intelligence analyst who said that we are seeing a convergence where the terrorists are now recruiting bandits to aid their activities. So the lines are being blurred right now.
Even at that, bandits remain who they are. They don't have the discipline to sustain such convergence. That is the luck we're still having in Nigeria. Because they want money, they want to live and enjoy that money. That is the luck we're still having. They're not ideologically inclined. They're not religious people in nature. What I mean, they're not religious. They, on the surface, they appear to be Muslims mostly, but they are not fighting religious war. They are fighting a pure criminal enterprise war. But you see these guys in the northeast that are ISWAP, these ones are fighting for a higher goal, and they want to die fighting. These ones don't want to die fighting. Now, the problem why banditry has festered is this: banditry is a low-risk criminal enterprise that is highly, highly profitable. Very profitable, and it's low risk. Why? Because each time they go for operations, they meet little or no resistance from affected communities. And the logistics they need to carry out their activities is mostly their two legs. They can walk from here for several hundreds of kilometers non-stop. I've been a victim, so I can tell you from my experience. All they need to do is to pick up AK-47 and go to the nearest highway and look at the cars that are passing. Anyone that they think contains people that are a bit well to do, they open fire on the car. Whoever survives, they hide you into the forest. And the first few hours of abduction, you're going to walk for not less than 12 to 18 hours to evade tracking, to evade any form of surveillance by security agencies. That's the first tactic. That is why people that are involved in this franchise are mostly people that we are once headsmen, nomadic headsmen. So with that skill, they can walk for distance on end without getting. They're already used to it, and they know the terrain within the forest. So the first thing to do is to enable communities to be able to resist. This is something we've not been able to get right. I have suggested several that look. We're not saying proliferate arms and give everybody arms to carry. No. But it's of no use having a vigilante group that cannot carry the right caliber of arms to confront terrorists that are carrying very sophisticated weapons. So Zamfara State Governor is very willing. He has the zeal. We can see it. He set up his own security network. But because they are carrying Dane guns, he lost over 100 of those men in the first attack that they went to defend communities. It happened in Kaduna that the governor of Kaduna had to now resort to the negotiation with bandits. Oyo State has got Amotekun, but the governor said, I want to negotiate. Why? Amotekun and all these other security agencies are not allowed to carry beyond Dane guns and pump action. So in terms of firepower superiority, the bandits are to guns any of these local arrangements, and I've said it severally, how many more people need to die or be slaughtered before enough is enough for government to wake up to devise a new means of containing this issue? When the country is under attack, there is usually a call-up of even reserves. And other citizens say, come and volunteer to fight. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Ukrainian citizens, including superstars, artists, celebrities, flew back home to go and pick up the gun to defend their homeland.
Not Dane guns, of course. They were properly armed.
Armed. When there was a time there was enough attack in Jerusalem, in Israel, an alarm was sent out that every male adult should now start carrying arms anywhere you are going to defend yourself against knife attackers. Just knife attack. Yes. And this is the norm everywhere. During the Civil War, for instance, the Biafran side recruited people that were not soldiers into the armed forces of the Biafran Republic to defend their homeland, to boost troop numbers. When the Nigerian side also did the same. People like Adaka Isaac Boro, who fought on the side of the Nigerian side, wasn't a soldier, he was a student, he was an activist. So we had so many of them like that we are recruited into the army just to boost troop numbers because there was a war. In fact, some of the finest commanders on both sides were not actually trained soldiers, particularly Colonel Joe Atuzia of the Biafran side. He was not a trained soldier, he was a medical doctor. But because he wanted to defend his homeland, his zeal made him one of the best commanders in African history, who was deployed from one sector to the other whenever there was a threat of their sector falling. He was one that would go and try to resuscitate it. What am I saying in essence? Now that we're fighting internal enemies on the scale of fighting them now, and they are spreading, let us not wait for the time that they spread across this country. Incorporate these local vigilantes into the Civil Defense Corps. I've said it to this program 1,000 times. Nobody is listening. I've written about it. I have gone to have meetings with people concerned several times. The Civil Defense Corps is like a mid-military establishment between the police and the army. Because the Civil Defense has mandate to protect public facilities, public utilities, public places. In fact, in the Safe School Initiative, the Civil Defense is the premier security agency. You know, they created that agency. We're looking for responsibilities for it. So they just lumped up a lot of responsibilities. So Civil Defense does not need to actually arrest you for prosecution. They can shoot at sight where there's a threat to lives and properties. So all of the police they must be careful not to be seen to be carrying out extrajudicial killings. So I keep telling people, police is to enforce law and order in a normal security situation. But you see the army, you see the Civil Defense, which should serve like our own National Guard of the U.S., comes in when riot overwhelms the police, you bring in the National Guard because they have more lethal force to quell situation. So now that you are expressing banditry on this scale, the armed forces can concentrate on insurgency in the Northeast because ISWAP is like a standing army on its own. But this is a criminal gang. So involve the people. So how do you involve the people? I know that the federal government right now cannot increase troop numbers to cover everywhere. But the people concerned are the state governments that have come under attacks. Those that have set up Amoteku, those that have set up all sorts of security arrangements in their states. This security arrangement should now be collapsed into a volunteer unit in the Civil Defense Corps, where members of communities will be drawn in on volunteer basis, but they begin to write training now, write documentation, write proof, and everything, as civil defense officials. The only difference is that the state government will be in charge of your remuneration and stockpiling of your armament as supplied by civil defense. The reason is in case this state wants to not use it for some other reasons, it can easily be divided or controlled. Fine. So if any state demonstrates maturity enough to allow this thing to endure successfully, it should not be a precursor to a full state policing system. Fine. But for now, let members of the communities come in. All they need to do is to be deployed back to their communities to now guard their schools. And for these people, it's like there's an incentive to do this. They're protecting their own children in schools. They're protecting their own wives at the marketplace. They're protecting their own parents in the farmland. So there's a reason. It's like, they might even do it for free because this enablement alone is life-saving. So I don't need salary. Just allow me to stay in my community. I keep saying that anybody today in Nigeria that is not carrying guns to become a terrorist or a bandit is a good person. and being a good person, if you give the person gun legally, the person is not likely to misuse it. Because right now, in case of if anybody want to misuse weapons, nothing stops the person because there's an already of purification in the hands of the bad guys. So the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. It's a time-tested phenomenon. I'm going to point at the US and tell you what's happening in the US. US is a separate case. In Saudi Arabia, guns are legal culturally because an average Saudi man possesses not more than 1 or 2 weapons in their house, in their household. In UAE, guns are allowed. Citizens possess guns, but they don't misuse it. When we are growing up, our parents owned guns legally. They never misused it all through, and there was security in our communities. Because you know that if you enter this community, so person has gun, so landlord will. Today is no longer the case. So people can come into these communities freely, abduct without any resistance. There has to be resistance. The DGDSS, Mr. Tosi Ajayi himself, has admitted that this is the way to go.
Yes, he has.
He has said it. But he feels they should do it through forest guard. I've said that is a long route to where we are going to. Let us do it with the civil defense. You don't create another agency, the civil defense. So governors cannot channel the money that used to fund these security agencies into this unit. We are in war. It's a wartime situation. We must mobilize people to come in and fight for their communities. It's a time-tested solution to insurrection and insurgency in any part of the world. Now, to make this experiment very successful, make sure the core of the operational base should be sourced from ex-servicemen with clean records that are from these communities, that have returned back to these communities. Bring them, so we don't have a reserve army, bring them back as sort of a reserve. Let them dominate the core because they already have the training. It's just to do some refresher courses and give them the capabilities to act. Enough is enough. We can't keep lamenting every day without bringing solution. And this is what solution that I've been saying should be tested. Test it and see and let us know because the bandit doesn't want to die. He's after money. You see, the Israel man is ready to die fighting. His own is not money. So you have to bomb those out of existence. But see these other ones, the day they realize that they're going to a community, they may not likely come out with their lives. Banditry, as I've always argued, is a cultural tendency among the demography that dominates this trade. And because the state receded, when the state recedes, certain cultural tendencies come to the fore.
And fill up
in Nigeria, there are parts of Nigeria that, what do you call it? Cannibalism is cultural, accepted, some communities. It was a crime. So if the state is not firm enough, people eat human skin openly. There are parts of Nigeria that prostitution of every kind is culturally accepted. But it's a crime under the Nigerian law. But if you slack on the law, fine. Have you ever wondered why, for instance, courtism among tertiary institutions appears to be more prevalent in the South than in the North? You know why? Children in the South, there was a pre-existing culture of secret societies.
Yes.
So children grew up to see that their fathers belong to one society or the other. So when they get to school, it is easy to say, why not? Which are degenerated into, dangerous and violent groups. Now, up north, we are not used to that. We didn't have that. But we have our own problem, which is what is manifesting as Boko Haram, which have always traced to ideology of religious indoctrination that has gone wrong. So, you see, the state must be firm, must be decisive, and must be assertive. Otherwise, you cannot stamp out some of these endemic security situations. Banditry is not just upper crime. It's not Shino Rambo. It's not an enemy. No. Banditry is like a way of life to these people. That's the truth of the matter to the people that are doing it. They don't see anything wrong with it. Before they started going to banditry, they have convinced themselves that they are doing the right thing. And you have a gumi out there that is continuously giving them positive vibes about what they are doing. Oh, they were marginalized. Oh, they were cheated. Oh, they were not allowed access to school. They were not this. That's why they are doing this. So already, it's giving them an alibi. And before a crime is committed, somebody needs to convince himself first that's on the right path. So there's no guilt conscience on them at all. Because Gumi and some others like him have given them the reason to do what they are doing continuously.
I'm curious, the fact that the federal government hasn't moved in on Gumi, what does that tell you about even the government itself?
Politics. Gumi actually is not speaking in isolation. There are millions of people in the Muslim North the Hausa Fulanis, the Hausa speaking Fulani North that think like Gumi. I know the kind of attacks I get. It's about banditry. It's vicious. Even when the victims appear to be the same people from the same demography and the same region.
So as long as there's this prevailing mindset of we are marginalized, we are not getting what it is that we ought to be getting from the Nigerian state, this will continue to thrive.
The question is, who is getting anything from the Nigerian state? Who? I can't remember the last time I got anything from the Nigerian state.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm asking that question
so
is...
all of us should have carry AK-47 and turn on ourselves.
No, the reason why I'm asking that question is even if you have communities who are armed like this, and you continue to have a federal government who is sort of slow to act, even when they have someone that seems like is a direct connect to these people, is it going to make any difference?
That's why the communities have not been given the capability to defend themselves. That's the reason why. The federal government decides to move against people like Gumi and decides to wake up from their slumber, they will give us capabilities to defend ourselves.
All right.
And when the Biafrans threatened to leave Nigeria, they did not give us capability to defend ourselves. Let me ask you, recently, when Nnamdi Kanu started the second phase of Biafra agitation that now became violent, did the Biafra government talk about non-kinetic approach to Biafra solution? Did you hear it one day by any military officer? They use full force to clamp down on anybody in the southeast that was carried out violent separatist agitation. And Nnamdi Kanu himself was brought all the way from Kenya. He has been tried, he has been prosecuted, he has been convicted, he has been jailed. Yet, we cannot fetch bandits from Zamfara here, put them on trial, jail them, to show an example, because the priorities differ. Why we see one as a threat to the state, we do not see the other as much as a threat. And I keep saying this. No matter the most violent separatist agitation in Nigeria, separatist agitation, even if it's Biafra, in the name of Biafra, poses the same threat as banditry and insurgency poses to the Nigerian state. You know why? Why Biafrans are trying to separate, or should I say secede, by this association, that is our own part of the country, want to move away. That's why all the activities of IPOB, even when it went violent, was centered around strictly east of the Niger. They didn't cross boundaries. You see this other one? For the Boko Haram, they are trying to secede by substitution. You know how? They want to turn Nigeria from a plural, democratic, secular state to a Puritan Islamic state. So, by the time they succeed, if they succeed, Nigeria would have changed this coloration, this formation, would have changed to something else. That is form of secession itself. Which is even worse, because at least this other one said we want to leave, but they are leaving us behind to do what we want to do with our lives. This have come to change our lives completely by force. Now, this other was these bandits, what they are doing gradually is secession by elimination. Meaning, with the activities and the mass killings they are carrying out, if it is left unchecked, that will come, they will have killed all of us, and only they will remain in Nigeria. So you used to call that in Nigeria. So each of these threats are as serious as the other, if not even more serious than the one we think is the most serious. So we need to be more serious with insurgency in the northeast and banditry in the from the northwest. And stop treating it as if it's a product of social. It's not a social issue. It's a cultural one that the state must stamp its authority and make sure it extinguishes. Otherwise, a time will come when these guys gain sufficient ground and overrun the western corridor of Nigeria, the western half of Nigeria. They will start behaving like the insurgents in the northeast. They will start gunning for the control of the state. I've been saying this. That a time will come that they will have so much money, they will have taken over so much territories, that they don't feel that we can actually become a legitimate state too. And they start gunning for the state. So before we get there, allow people the act of self-defense. That's where we are now. Under a well-guided, structured arrangement. So that when bandits strike, people should be able to respond.
First line of defense.
First line of defense.
Okay.
It's standard practice all over the world. Before conventional forces would now arrive, to now pursue them to their enclave and apprehend them.
All right, sir. Let's take some calls and messages at this time. It's 0809-597-4869 and on WhatsApp 0809-993-0137. If the seriousness of the incursion of these criminal elements into the Southwest hasn't struck home for you, you consider the fact that the state governor himself said he's open to negotiating with these bandits. This is a system that has been tried and tested in the other parts where these bandits have taken over and it hasn't yielded any results.
It really emboldens them.
And yet the state governor is saying he's willing to do that. Let's talk. 0809-597-4869 and on WhatsApp 0809-993-0137. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, lady. For me, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. Welcome.
With regard to our guest, doctor, the main thing is that the bandits, the kidnappers, they have better understanding of Nigerian terrain. They know that we have more ungovernable spaces, more than places occupied by people, and places where there are no government present. That is why they are crossing the whole hinterlands of Nigeria. They are carrying out their atrocities, and they will go unchecked. That is our being as a country. Most of the countries of the world, their global best practices is that once you cross their border, you step into their military formation. Most of their barracks and headquarters of defense headquarters are along the borderline. But in our cases, most of our defense headquarters and paramilitary are quartered in the federal capital of Nigeria. So whenever there is nothing, before they can even carry out rescue operation, it will be in days. So it's unfortunate. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Let's all endeavor to keep it to a minute or a minute 30 seconds. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Adiola Victor from Disalaji.
All right, so go ahead.
I think the federal government is playing bad politics with insecurity in this country, especially by not arresting Gumi, who knows a lot about what is going on in this country. They have told the whole world that the federal government knows what to do, but they fail to do it because of the next election and because they don't want to step on people's toes, especially in the north. That is why they are playing bad politics. So let them continue with these bad politics. Then as for self-defense, for now, because of the unemployment, the political devastation in the country, and the bad voice, for now, it is not advisable to legalize gun in this country. But when we clean up the mess, and we sanitize the system, and there is peace in the land, we can now consider self-defense. If hands get into the wrong hands, there's a lot of hunger in the land. People are not happy with them. They are not happy with the political system.
All right.
People will continue to turn guns against themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Somi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to Dr. Majeed.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Salasi.
All right, Salasi, can you please keep it to 30 seconds and then hold on and we'll continue with you after?
I will do that.
All right, thank you.
There shouldn't be any non-kinetic to the bandit or any terrorist. And they are not prodigal sons. The prodigal son that we get the story never killed anybody. So the government shouldn't have any repentant bandit or bringing them back to society. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Let's take the news at the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll take another story and then get back to your thoughts and contributions. Stay with us.
You get a daily dose of news trends.
Crisis averted in aviation sector after aggrieved unions suspend strike.
Intense conversation.
She's among the ICPC board members. Oh. What has she experienced in life? 20 years with a Dr. girl. She is that because she has level.
It's okay. That is okay. It's Let me explain. No, it's okay. Let me explain. It's okay. It's okay. She. Off your mic.
On 95.1
Nigeria Info. Your mic is always on. Let's talk.
With 27 years of unbroken democratic rule in Nigeria since 1999, what have we gained? Where have we faltered? And where do we go from here?
It's time for the big conversation. 95.1 Nigeria Info FM Abuja presents its first virtual town hall meeting on X Spaces. Examining Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the gains, the failures, and the roadmap forward.
We're bringing the heavy hitters to the mic.
Aisha Yusufu, human and political rights activists and politicians.
Security experts, Kabir Adamu, policy and development experts, Edosa Oviawe, legal luminary and human rights lawyer, Dr. Maxwell Okpara, broadcast veteran, Carl Nabwefe Orakwe, and chief economist, Paul Alaje.
Join the dialogue. Set your reminders. Date is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. Time 3 p.m. Prompt. Where? On X. Follow at Nigeria Info ABJ to join the space.
95.1 Nigeria Info FM. Let's talk.
Nigeria Info.
All right, then, let's take a few more of your thoughts and contributions, and then we'll take the second story. Mr. Isa on WhatsApp says, the insecurity in Nigeria would not be finished until the government puts aside politics. You can't be fighting insecurity while playing politics with it. And concerned Nigerian Daddy Shunamite from Gidan Mangoro says, we have perfected the art of excusing failure when it wears our tribe's face and amplifying it when it doesn't. Under the late Buhari, many in the north said nothing while their own communities burned because silence protected their man. Now the fire has moved to the southwest and the same selective outrage is playing out in reverse. Political loyalty before human life is sickness. And Emmanuel from Guza Place says, Dr. Majeed has said it all. Some sects, whether tribal or religious, are giving the wrong name to the terrorist acts because it doesn't affect them directly. And if it does, really devoid of playing politics with it, come under a single umbrella and face the common enemy. Enough of this political shenanigans. Was Paul Atim from Mabuchi is asking, good day, Dr. Majeed, don't you think state security is the way to go? I think he sort of answered that already. Good afternoon, Somi and Dr. Majeed. I want to agree with him on recruiting Nigerians like me who have served in the military before. Tracking these bandits will be no issues. I'm ready and willing to help my country. Omenka John from Nyanya with that one. And take this one very quickly. It's unfortunate that every week, Dr. Majeed, you have been providing solutions to the problem of a nation, but those in authority refuse to accept your opinions because they are the ones creating and benefiting from insecurity in Nigeria. Gideon C. from Gwagwalada with that one. I'll take 3 calls before the next story. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Somi.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Majeed. My take in this issue, I want to disagree with Mr. Majeed for this one. When I'm saying you are talking about giving to Civil Defense Corps, I like that. But for giving Nigeria a gun to defend themselves, it's not a foreign country. You should know that. And you should know that this country, all the villagers, they are fighting for life, fight for many things. They are for many enemies in this country. And we are divided. We don't even love ourselves to that extent. That when give gun to anybody, this country, that is a big calamity. We see a lot of killing more than the Boko Haram. I tell you that. I know this, and I will tell you what is going to be going on in the country. So Nigeria should not even try that. Hello?
Yes.
I need to respond.
So
Don't misquote me whenever
Hold on,
when I speak. People should be able to listen. I said, give ability to arm communities to vigilante groups already existing, and I named them. Amotekun, civilian JTF in the northeast, the ones that are set up by the states. That the only difference is change their caliber of weaponry from then guns and whatever to AK-47, but put them under the control of civil defense to prevent misuse. I didn't say carry gun and distribute everybody in the community. Where did I say that?
And then also,
I said it specifically that to prevent misuse, put under the civil defense, so that if any governor even tries to misuse them, they can be disbanded. So what else?
And then you talked about arming veterans.
And I said these people should be drawn from veterans, people that have served before in the army, bring them back and constitute them into these groups. That the only difference is that it's the state government that will be paying their salaries and stockpiling their weapons, so that the responsibility will not be so much on the federal government.
And then willing community members. Is there anything wrong with that?
Nobody has said you should just carry gun and give everybody. So where did I say that?
Okay.
Before you are disagreeing.
All right. Okay, let's take 2 more calls. Hello? Good afternoon.
Yes. A very good evening to my dear sister and our guest, Dr. Majeed. Thank you, sir, for always coming, What you do is you open our eyes to, to new ideas and new ways of doing things. Yes, thank you. You told us about the, modus operandi of those, that's the Boko, the terrorists, and the bandits. But, sir, there's other thing you didn't note or maybe escape your mind, sir. Some of the places where those people, the bandit attacks, sir, after killing the people, they take over the places. There's this regular caller from Kogi State, Omala local government. I don't know there, but it's your own side. You know the place better. He told us that the people who came to keep them are there inside their farms living for years, sir. That man, I've listened to him for more than 3 years, complaining that instead of recent, I think last month, they keep them. There's this killing that took place few months ago, maybe 2 or 3 or so. I can't really remember. So, sir, what I thought they were doing is to, this ethnic cleansing, sir. I'm sorry to use that word on air. Maybe it's not acceptable because they are killing people and taking over their ancestral land. That one is included. And if they are doing that, I think maybe because some of them, sir, from my little I know some of those people are not from this country, sir. They are from another place. Maybe they want to take over our country. But I just thank you because you provide solution to the problem. Before, I know that we need to fight back, but I thought we do it as individuals, as a community. But you give us a better idea of making use of one of our, what's it called, the civil defense, and I think I would have started better. Please, people in authority, we want you to listen to these ideas and let's make use of all these ideas so that we can get this place, just clear this mess and everybody live a good life.
All right, sir.
Thank you for this privilege. God bless you.
Yeah, I think what the last caller was trying to talk about was what we faced in Benue, in parts of Plateau, parts of Kogi, yes, some time ago. It's still happening. It's just that what is more in the news is banditry and insurgency. And that is this phenomenon of what we call, some of us in the media then described as herdsmen terrorism.
Kaduna State also.
Exactly. We have people who come with herds of cattle into communities, displace the farmers, kill anybody they see on site, and occupy the farmlands. And nobody there, you can't even go within a 100-meter, perimeter of the area. It is still happening. And the Obala he mentioned, in fact, it's a serious issue in Kogi, truly. It's a serious issue. Let me say this. One of those early morning appointments I have with my governor, I went to his by 8 a.m. and he was not at home. But I was asked to wait. And then he came back at about 9:30. I said, because of the attack that happened in Nomala last night, I had to go and coordinate with all security agencies to launch a counter-attack and make sure the perpetrators are brought to book. It tells you the intensity of the attacks there, truly. Because Omala is contiguous to Agatu area of Benue. So what's happening in Agatu has an overflow into Omala. It is true. This is another issue we've been talking about for some time now. It's just because what came up in the news that we are discussing was banditry, abduction for money. These are not about anybody. They just come and occupy and they kill. So this is harassment terrorism. And truly, some of them are not Nigerians. But in the past, the government seems to have lumped all of them together and called them former herders clashes. And I said, no. I can't be clashing with somebody who came into my own land, my farmland, and launched an attack on me, and you said it is a former herder clash. Who is clashing with who? This is pure terrorism in its purest form. So that is also ongoing. It's not because it's not in the news as of today, for example, that we didn't discuss it, but that does not mean it is not there. It is there. In fact, when I wrote my first opinion on this issue of civil defense and community engagement, I said, for example, in Zamfara, where there was a dichotomy between Hausas and Fulanis at the beginning of this crisis, I said this group, this vigilante group, should now consist of Hausa farmers and Fulani cattle breeders who have jointly commanded attacks. Because the same people that are actually killing farmers and displacing them from their farmlands and abducting people are the same people doing cattle rustling. The same cattle people. So, and I said in Zamfara, for instance, this kind of group should involve two ethnic groups and much more other economic interest groups, so that it doesn't become one group versus the other. So, for instance, if you must bring up this group in a place like Oyo, it also similarly consists of everybody who simply domiciled in the community, every ethnic group, religious group, intricately chosen to make sure that this is a community effort. It's not a tribal one or a religious one.
Because the land belongs to everybody in the community.
Once you are domiciled there as a Nigerian, you are a stakeholder. So it will reflect all of you. Everybody must be participating. So that it is seen as a full community effort. Not that you will now populate it with one ethnic group over the other. No. In fact, when I say this, so that people get outraged. Even in Oyo State, there are Fulanis in Oyo that have lived long enough, that are indigenous to the area now, that speak the language, that are far from criminality and themselves victims of criminality. For example, the people that went and brought students in the school, you think they will separate the Fulani children from the Yoruba children? No, they won't do that. No. Anybody they see is game, is fair game. Do you get the point?
Yes.
So members of the Fulani community in Oyo will even be incorporated into the same arrangement, so that it's not a tribal war we are fighting. No. So you should come in so that we can fight together against bandits. We tried it in Kogi at a time. I remember when we had this problem in Kogi, the Kogi State government now decided to do something. First, we indigenized the Fulanis across communities and appointed chiefs for them and put them in the Council of Chiefs, graded. So they had the cost status with everybody. So when we had farmers, herders, the real farmer herders classes now, there is a peace settlement that does not discriminate against the Fulani man because he's a minority in our community. No. You know what that resulted into? There are children that are now participating in banditry, in kidnapping, in highway, whatever. The parents now became the informants to government. So once any of their sons elopes from the community and they suspect that he has gone to join a bad gang, when they come back into the community to come and rest for a few days, they will alert the local authorities and they'll just go in and pick them out. That was how Yabelu was able to tackle security in Kogi. What am I saying in essence? When we talk about the identity of criminals, we are not by any means trying to criminalize every member of the identity. No. It's simply to know how to tackle it. To know, okay, this is the pattern. This is why they are successful. For example, banditry, many of them, even by the Sultans of Sokoto's own admission, he said 80% of people that have been caught as bandits are Fulanis. I will ask it, why are they able to do this crime so successfully? Simple. They have the capability for long trek, the endurance. Yes. We used to have local kidnappers in Okene, for instance, that are indigenous, that are from Okene. They need cars to kidnap because they can walk for a long distance. So they will come with cars to kidnap and use information to kidnap. Blindfold you and drive you downtown until you lose consciousness. And then they put you on top of a mountain and start negotiating for ransom. That was also quashed. Nobody gave excuses for that. So what I'm saying in essence is, everybody's involved in crime. Those are the good people among all demographics. So if you're constituting of these kind of groups, it should include everybody. So that everyone has a sense of belonging and it will not be used to further an ethnic or religious interest.
All right. We need to move on to the second story. Just drop this one because this also came in as a result of this conversation. We got the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on policy and policy communication, Daniel Bwala, saying that Nigerians are constitutionally empowered to defend themselves against attackers, including in situations involving lethal threats, while maintaining that the government is working to address insecurity in the country. He made the statement today on Arise TV, saying, when your right, my right and that of my neighbor is put together, it becomes collective rights to defend ourselves, and Nigerians have the right to defend themselves constitutionally. If you come to my house to try to kill me, any lethal weapon I use to defend myself is guaranteed by the Constitution. He, however, noted that firearm possession remains regulated by law, saying that Nigerians don't have the right to bear certain arms unless those arms are permitted by the collective people, unless those arms are permitted, but the collective people can come together to apply to the government for the right to coordinate themselves. And that's what he had to say. He spoke and said a number of things on government's position on insecurity, but we can't get into that right now. Let's take a look at the second story very quickly. We'll come back to the phone lines and get more of your thoughts. It started off with a protest. A number of Nigerians took to the streets, at some point went to meet the man himself, speaking about former President Goodluck Jonathan, to say, we need you to take up office. And he said, oh, yes, I will look into it. I will consider it. But in the last couple of days, it's been one statement to the other coming from various parties, one of them saying that he has already collected his form and is going to be submitting it publicly. You've also got the Makinde-backed PDP coming out to say that they've adopted Jonathan as their sole presidential candidate. This is a faction of the PDP backed by Oyo State Governor, led by, or rather under the chairmanship of Tani Muturaki, saying that they have announced former President Goodluck Jonathan as the party's sole presidential candidate for the 2027 general elections. A member of the faction's presidential screening committee, Babangida Aliyu, made the announcement on Tuesday during the screening exercise for aspirants in Abuja. He said the former president was granted a waiver from appearing before the screening committee because of his previous experience in public office, which according to him automatically qualified him for the election. You've also got the ADC coming out to say it's going to be a matter of an earthquake with this announcement flying around the place. I'm interested in what you have to say about this because was not a couple of days ago, about a week ago, Seyi Makinde himself revealed, or rather publicly declared, his own 2027 presidential ambition under a newly formed PDP-APM Grand Alliance in Ibadan. And we're also looking at the fact that this is a faction of the PDP. Is this going to amount to anything, or is it just political pandering in the public space to try and shift the dynamics for what's happening in 2027, sir?
I'm surprised that 24 hours after that statement came out of the faction of the PDP,
yes,
the Turaki-led faction, that
yes,
Goodluck Jonathan has been screening absentia, sort of saying, or has been given a waiver
yes,
to keep screening, and that is their sole candidate. I thought that within a few minutes of that news making it to the media, that the Jonathan media office should have issued a statement immediately to debunk it.
Why would you expect that to happen, sir?
I say this because if Jonathan is going to contest an election, he should have made it known to the public that I am contesting, I'm interested. Now, not denying or debunking this information or distancing himself from it, suggest a surreptitious move to sneak in, maybe pick up a form somehow, and leave it to chance. That is unbecoming and unbefitting of the status of Goodluck Jonathan as not just a former president, but an icon of democracy, not just in Africa, but the world at large. Somebody who is now primed to step into the very big shoes of African statesmen like Nelson Mandela, like Julius Nyerere, like Kenneth Kaunda, like our own Olusegun Obasanjo, Jerry Rawlings of Ghana. Jonathan is properly situated on this path to become an African statesman that the entire continent, not just Nigeria, can rally around in terms of crisis. When you want a voice of reasoning, a voice of mediation, a voice of moderation, somebody that the entire world can look up to when it comes to African affairs. Jonathan is already on that path. And I do not think it is worth sacrificing what God has done for him now by agreeing to be the candidate. Because as it stands today, unless he releases a statement now, he has agreed to be the candidate of a factional arm of a PDP that clearly is overwhelmed by the wicked faction, outfoxed by the wicked faction. That was already having a governor that has decamped. Anyway, the PDP has lost all their governors anyway. But Sheyi Makinde has decamped to APM. Why still holding on to PDP as an alliance platform for his special ambition?
Yes.
So, a faction that, as we speak, is the subject of litigation. We don't even know which of the two factions is really going to be assaulted by INEC at the end of the day, because both of them are claiming to be the right faction. And so far, I've observed that Wike himself has shepherded all his allies into the APC to go and pick forms, including Aduda of FCT. Why none of them, I've not seen any of Wike's allies anywhere in Nigeria picking forms on the platform of his own faction of the PDP. Now, on the other side of the PDP, to the Turaki faction, the only person they've announced so far as a candidate on the platform of that party is Goodluck Jonathan. I've not had them announce any gubernatorial candidate or any other one. So how can the former president allow himself to be dragged to this all-time low of a political misadventure? At this stage of his life, he's somebody I respect so much, Nigerians respect so much. There is absolutely nothing wrong in contesting this election. No. But if you wanted to contest, you would have made up your mind early enough. I choose a platform, a viable one that is not one that is dying like the PDP, and make your position known. And if anybody wants to vote for you, vote for you. I'm not among those that will say don't contest. No. I won't say that this is right. But I'm saying if you must contest, this is not the way to go about it. And I do not believe that the president, former president, that I know personally, who like a father figure to me, has given support to this charade. So I'm calling on whoever is listening now to say, you have until now and the next 20 minutes to issue a statement.
You're giving an ultimatum.
No, it's true, because until you show that ultimatum, we are the candidate of the PDP on Turkey faction. What are the fried dig on the personality of the president?
Well, I mean, just like you rightly said, it's been, at least over 12 hours since all of this shenanigans started playing out. From Umar,
named you as a candidate.
From Umar saying that he has purchased the presidential form, to Makinde saying that they've waived screening, he's their sole presidential candidate. Don't you actually think that he wants to get his leg in the race?
So it's on this platform that as we speak now, INEC does not even recognize the platform as we speak. So all that, anybody that has the powers to, it's just to tell her to maintain status quo and tell them as it is.
Too much.
As it is. As we speak, it is still Anyanwu that's secretary of PDP. It is still the other gentleman, Abraham, somebody that is chairman of PDP. I come to INEC. So, Turaki not even chairman of PDP. How can Jonathan allow himself to now run on a platform of a party that is not recognized by INEC? No matter the Supreme Court judgment that they're waiving, INEC has not yet recognized this faction, and all primary processes are closing by the end of this month. So if he does not issue that statement, it means he has lost his personal ambition on an illegal platform, and that will be a dent on his image.
This is happening while there is still a suit out contesting his eligibility to even run for office.
And I understand that the support Jonathan got after office as a statesman that has made him one of the icons for democracy in Africa, who he goes about monitoring elections. Not everybody gets that privilege. But Baghdad does not monitor election anywhere in Africa. No, it's true. I doubt even if Buhari were to be alive today, if he will be given that privilege. I doubt. And so, but you are given because you demonstrated good conduct as a democratic elected president who lost an election to the opposition, and you willingly accepted your fate and conducted a very peaceful, orderly transition.
So your ultimatum still stands?
No, it stands. So because, let me tell you, Jonathan should know better than this. Now. So if in case he's not aware, maybe he's not had this news, he should. And as I'm leaving the studio, I'm going to put up a call to him to remember it to a concern. That the implication is that by the time INEC now makes the state, I publish the list of potential candidates. I publish Sandy Ono. You don't forget that the wicked people are bringing Sandy Ono as a candidate. You recall I told you that people don't have a candidate going to 2020 election, and that even if they will have, it will be a placeholder for President Tinubu. I told you this. Sanjono is going to be that placeholder. So what will happen is, if Jonathan does not debunk this information, by the time INEC publish their list of candidates from top to bottom, Sanjono will publish another Jonathan's name. So meaning that Jonathan, you agreed to run on a platform that was illegal, and the only thing that stopped from coming to the race was because INEC didn't allow that platform to fly. What does that mean? It means it has been recorded against your name that you contested for presidency in 2023, 2027.
Okay.
But failed even before the race started.
Let's take a conversation.
That's the implication.
Yeah, and it's quite a dent. I understand that, sir. Let's take this break. When we come back, we get back to you and your contribution. Stay with us.
This is Nigeria Info.